Good morning. Today is the 29th day of Elul, the 15th of September, the very last day of the year 5783. And here in the Holy Land, we're just about 2 hours before the beginning of 5784, which is going to be a very special year. What I'd like to talk about today in preparation for Rosh Hashanah is the idea of man's creation on this day. As we said a few times, the creation of the world is on the 25th of Elul, 5 days earlier, and Rosh Hashanah is considered to be the day on which man was created. Now, if you follow the Talmud in Sanhedrin 38b, it says there that man, like everything else that was created during the day, not during the night. In the Torah, the day follows the night. Vayhi erev, vayhi boker. It was evening and it was day, or it was evening and it was morning, one day. So the day follows the night. So during the night, when the sixth day began, the sixth day of creation began, for 12 hours it was nothing. And then, once the day started, the creation started. And it was a process. The Talmud says there, it outlines what happened in every hour of the day, from the first hour of daylight until the 12th. And man finished being created in what we call the 9th hour today, like we would call it, like the 9 o'clock in the morning. 9, 10, 11. Now, why is this important? Because one might ask, why do we not blow the shofar at night? Since it says that the day of Rosh Hashanah, the first day of the year, is a Yom Teruah, it's a day of trumpet blowing, of hearing the sounds. So why not do it right away when the day starts? For instance, on Passover is called the holiday of matzot, the unleavened bread that we eat. We start right away in the evening. We do that right away. Shavuot is considered to be the day of the giving of the Torah, and we spend all night, from the beginning of the night, we spend all night learning Torah. So why is it then in Rosh Hashanah, for instance, or let's take Sukkot. Sukkot also, we go into the Sukkah with the first evening. Right away, we eat our first meal in the Sukkah. Why is it not the same thing with the shofar? So there's many reasons, halachic reasons, we're not going to get into them. But here what we have is a very interesting idea that the blowing of the shofar corresponds to God blowing air into the nostrils of Adam. In the same way that he blew the air in, we're also blowing air in the same way. Doing what? Mimicking God. Doing the same thing that he did. Now, the idea of creating man was because God wanted his sovereignty to be known. And you cannot have your sovereignty known over animals because they have no consciousness. They cannot come to know you. But mankind has consciousness. Now, on the face of it, even though we have consciousness and we can recognize to a certain extent that God is sovereign, we don't understand what God really is. We can understand some ideas, some appearances of how God is in the world, how he acts. And because of that, in Chassidus it says that really, in the inner teachings of the Torah, it says that really there's too much of a distance for this to actually be called a kingdom. In other words, God is too aloof, above even human consciousness, for it to be considered that he's ruling over anything. There's no difference, it says in Chassidut, in the inner teachings of Torah, whether a human would be reigning over an anthill or over his dog. In the end, you can't say that he's a king because the dog recognizes him a little bit. To be a king, you have to be a king over those that are similar to you. So how do we put God over us as our king if we're not even in the position to do so? Because what kind of kingdom would this be? God ruling over an anthill. For this we need to have the notion of a covenant. Without covenant there is no connection. And we've said this many times, that when there is a great man, a genius in all areas, a moral person, a man of upright and good name, and he meets a very simple man who has no knowledge of what he even is capable of and knows and so on, what kind of connection can there be between them? Well, the simple kind of connection is that they make a covenant between them. And the covenant means that we will not disengage from one another. Meaning, I want you, says the great man, I want you as in your simplicity. The covenant is able to transcend the limitations of the connection that would be normally there, meaning that there's no connection between a human being and God. The covenant is meant to transcend that. And so the Jewish people who forged first Abraham, and then the people at Mount Sinai, and then later with the giving of, with the crossing of the Jordan and so on, all these covenants were made to elevate us, and to a certain extent, to the level of being able to be called God's subjects. Because otherwise there's no connection. There is no meaning to the fact that God is God over an anthill. It doesn't mean anything at all. That is the purpose of covenant. That is the purpose of having this type of relationship. Now, what happens if I don't have covenant? Covenant means, the covenant that the Jewish people have with God is a communal covenant. It wasn't forged with each one of us separately. So I can't stand during the blowing of the shofar and say, oh God, I'm now at the level that I can accept you as my king. Because the only way I can do that is through the power of the covenant with the community, not just with myself. It's not through my connection with God. So there were many explanations that the judgment that happens on the first day of Rosh Hashanah is a judgment about, are you worthy of even placing me above you as your king? And the answer is supposed to be, as I judge myself and look at myself and say, no, I'm not even close. To come in the morning to an understanding that it is only through the community, only through the people as a whole, that I can place God above me. And that is really the process that we go through on the first day of Rosh Hashanah. From the evening, we begin with this idea that, are we capable of, can I really accept God as my sovereign? Can I do that? Can I do that? And I come to the conclusion that I can't. And the only way I can do this is in the morning when we pray together. And then I say, when we hear the shofar together, when we do it together, and we're waiting until the time that man was created, and man, Adam, was like the community of all human beings, then we can accept God as our sovereign. But that's not where it ends. There were many tzaddikim, especially Reb Nachman of Breslev and the Alter Rebbe of Chabad, who said that they finish all the work of making God sovereign in the first hour of Rosh Hashanah. It's an amazing statement. Why? The simple explanation is they never got into the whole problem of looking at themselves and thinking, can I personally accept God as sovereign? They immediately immersed themselves in the community. They immediately felt that there is no possibility of doing this unless they immerse themselves in the community. But here's where it gets really interesting for this year, which is why I know that it's going to be a very good year. They said that they did this in the first hour of Rosh Hashanah. When is the first hour of Rosh Hashanah? If we count from the beginning of creation, it's the 121st hour. We had 5 full days with 24 hours each. That's 120. And then the 121st hour is the first hour of the 6th day. 121 is 11 squared, but that's very nice in and of itself. this idea that in 1 hour you can finish all the work of Rosh Hashanah, of everything you're going to do in 48 hours, you can fit it into the first hour to do it in 1 hour. 1 hour in Hebrew is sha'a achat. The value of that phrase, 1 hour, the 121st hour, the first hour of Rosh Hashanah, is exactly 784. The year that we're beginning tonight is 5,784. We customarily refer to it as Tafshin Pei Dalet 784, which is equal to 1 hour. So it's especially this year, of all the 6,000 years in which this reality will exist, that the first hour, the 1 hour, is 784, is exactly the value of this year. But it's even more than that. Because if I look at the word hour in Hebrew, sha'ah, there's filling of letters. When I fill the letters, each letter is written as a word. If I take the filling part, in the case of sha'ah, it's yud nun aleph, together they equal to 121. So the filling part of an hour, meaning the essence of what it means to have an hour, is 121, the 121st hour here. And interestingly enough, if you have wonders, I don't have it actually right in front of me right now, but if you receive wonders, if you've seen it, I hope that most of you do, or you can get it online at inner.org or at our Patreon. In any case, at patreon.com/Galenai, G-A-L-E-I-N-A-I, you can get it there also. There's an article there about the different meanings of 784. And the amazing thing is that the first thing we teach there is that 784 is equal to the act of a tzaddik, Peulat tzaddik. And this is exactly the story that the Alter Rebbe and Reb Nachman told about themselves. That the act of themselves, their act on the first hour of Rosh Hashanah, was to immerse themselves in the community completely, not to treat themselves as separate individuals, to, as it were, cancel out their individuality and to become one with the community. And that was the act of the tzaddik. Act of the tzaddik is also equal to 784, the same as sha'a echat, 1 hour. And so when we come to tonight, when you come to this momentous hour, the first hour of Rosh Hashanah. By the way, it's not the first hour after candle lighting. It's after sunset, meaning when we daven Ma'ariv. That hour is the hour that has this special essence of being able to be the act of a tzaddik by each one of us in that hour to already make God sovereign. And by doing so, we're doing something that's never been done before. Why so? Because we usually say that God becomes king only on people, only on somebody who has consciousness and has a covenant with him. But here we're doing it even before Adam is created, because Adam is only going to be created tomorrow, on Saturday, on the first day of Rosh Hashanah, in the 9th hour. That's when he's going to be created. We're going before the creation of man. Again, we said that the time that you really think about making God sovereign is when you blow the shofar. But we're doing something that's even prehistory, before even the creation of man. So this is an amazing achievement. There's almost nothing like this, and we'll probably find more interesting numerical analogies. But for this year, I think it's stupendous. It's one of the most beautiful things I've seen, that the first hour is equal to 784. Sha'a echat, 1 hour. The 1 hour that precedes by a half a day even the creation of mankind. It's making God, as we say in Adon Olam, Beterem kol yetzur nivra, even before any human was created, even before any creature that could make him sovereign was created. That's when we're doing it on this Rosh Hashanah. There's actually a lot more to it, with the number 121. Unfortunately, we don't have time. And I wish everyone a k'tiva v'chatima tova, and it should be a good and sweet year for everyone, for you and yours. and hope that we are able to join and learn together next year, every day, God willing, in good health and in good spirits. And we'll see in the coming year the end of the exile, the beginning of the redemption, and there should be peace and love for all mankind.
Amen. Thank you.